1483. Avicenna on liquids. BRM 71b. 1484. Roger Bacon, done in print. Footnote: the earliest printed edition known to Brunet of the works of Roger Bacon is a French translation, which appeared about 40 years after Leonardo's death. CA 139b, 419b. 1485. Cleombes the philosopher. Footnote: Cleombes. A Greek mathematician of the 5th century BC. We have a cyclic theory of meteorica by him. His works were not published before Leonardo's death. TR 4. 1486. Cornelius Celsus. The highest good is wisdom, the chief evil is suffering in the body. Because, as we are composed of two things, that is soul and body, of which the first is the better, the body is the inferior. Wisdom belongs to the better part, and the chief evil belongs to the worse part, and is the worst of all. As the best thing of all in the soul is wisdom, so the worst in the body is suffering. Therefore, just as bodily pain is the chief evil, wisdom is the chief good of the soul, that is with the wise man, and nothing else can be compared with it. Footnote: Aulus Cornelius Celsus, a Roman physician known as the Roman Hippocrates, probably contemporary with Augustus. Only his 8 books De Medicina are preserved. The earliest editions are Cornelius Celsus, De Medicina Liber. Roman 8, Milan 1481, Venice 1493 and 1497. TR 57. 1487. Demetrius was wont to say that there was no difference between the speech and words of the foolish and ignorant, and the noises and rumblings of the wind in an inflated stomach. Nor did he say so without reason, for he saw no difference between the parts whence the noise issued, whether their lower parts or their mouth, since one and the other were of equal use and importance. SKM Roman 3, 93a. 1488. Maestro Stefano Caponi, a physician, lives at the Piscina and has Euclid de Ponderibus. K22a. 1489. Fifth Book of Euclid. First definition. A part is a quantity of less magnitude than the greater magnitude when the less is contained a certain number of times in the greater. A part, properly speaking, is that which may be multiplied, that is when, being multiplied by a certain number, it forms exactly the whole. A common aggregate part. Second definition. A greater magnitude is said to be a multiple of a less when the greater is measured by the less. By the first we define the lesser, and by the second the greater is defined. A part is spoken. K22b. 1490. Of in relation to the whole, and all their relations lie between these two extremes and are called multiples. SKM Roman 3, 16b. 1491. Hippocrates says that the origin of men's sperm derives from the brain, and from the lungs and testicles of our parents, where the final decoction is made, and all the other limbs transmit their substance to this sperm by means of expiration, because there are no channels through which they might come to the sperm. Ash, Roman 2. Ib. 1492. Lucretius in his third De Rerum Natura. The hands, nails, and teeth were 165, the weapons of ancient man. They also use for a standard a bunch of grass tied to a pole, 167. Footnote: Lucretius, De Rerum Natura Libri Roman 6 were printed first about 1473, at Verona in 1486, at Brescia in 1495, at Venice in 1500 and in 1515, and at Florence in 1515. The numbers 165 and 167, noted by Leonardo at the end of the 2 passages, seem to indicate pages. But if so, none of the additions just mentioned can here be meant, nor do these numbers refer to the verses in the poems of Lucretius. TR 2. 1493. Ammianus Marcellinus asserts that 700,000 volumes of books were burnt in the siege of Alexandria in the time of Julius Caesar. Footnote: Ammiani Marcellini Historiarum Libri qui extant Roman 13, published at Rome in 1474. TR 2. W Roman 23. 1494. Mondino says that the muscles which raise the toes are in the outward side of the thigh, and he adds that there are no muscles in the back of the feet, because nature desired to make them light so as to move with ease, and if they had been fleshy they would be heavier, and here experience shows. Footnote: Mundini Anatomia. Mundinus Anathomia sic. Mundini Praestantissimorum Doctorum Almi Studit Titiensis. Sic, cura diligentissime emendata. Impressa papi per magistrum Antonium de Carfano 1478, in Fall. Ristampata, Benoni Johann. De Noordlingen 1482, in Fall. Padova. Per Mattheum Surdinus de Vuendiscrets 1484, in 40. Lipsia 1493, in 40. Venezia 1494, in 40 e Ivi, 1498, config. Quest figure per altro non sono, cum si e preciso, la prime ci facero introdat in un trattato di notamia. Nel fasciculus medicini di Giovanni Catham, ci riproduce anatomia del Mundinus, impresso pure a Venezia de J. E. G. de Gregores, 1491, in Fall. Contingosi intagli in legno, si vogliono disegnati, non gia incisi da Andrea Mantegna, di grand dimension, ici furono più volte riprodati negli anni successivi. Quest, edizioni del, fasciculus, del 1491, sta fra nostri libri e patra benissimo esser il volume 500 Anatomia notato de Leonardo. G. Day. G8a. 1495. Of the error of those who practice without knowledge, see, first, the Ars Poetica of Horace. Footnote: a 3-5 are written on the margin at the side of the title line of the text given, entire as number 19 1496. The heirs of Maestro Giovanni Giringallo have the works of Pellicano. 1497. The catapult, as we are told by Nonius and Pliny, is a machine devised by those and c. 1498. I have found in a history of the Spaniards that in their wars with the English Archimedes of Syracuse, who at that time was living at the court of Eclidarides, king of the Cyrodastri. And in maritime warfare, he ordered that the ships should have tall masts, and that on their tops there should be a spar fixed of 40 feet long and 1/3 of a foot thick. At one end of this was a small grappling iron, and at the other a counterpoise, and there was also attached 12 feet of chain. And at the end of this chain, as much rope as would reach from the chain to the base of the top, where it was fixed with a small rope. From this base, it ran down to the bottom of the mast, where a very strong spar was attached, and to this was fastened the end of the rope. But to go on to the use of his machine. I say that below this grappling iron was a fire which, with tremendous noise, threw down its rays and a shower of burning pitch, which, pouring down on the top, compelled the men who were in it to abandon the top to which the grappling iron had clung. This was hooked on to the edges of the top, and then suddenly the cord attached at the base of the top to support the cord which went from the grappling iron was cut, giving way and drawing in the enemy's ship. And if the anchor was cast, footnote: Archimedes never visited Spain, and the names here mentioned cannot be explained. Leonardo seems to quote here from a book, perhaps by some questionable medieval writer. Prof. C. Justi writes to me from Madrid that Spanish savants have no knowledge of the sources from which this story may have been derived. Lake, 14b. 1499. Theophrastus on the ebb and flow of the tide, and of eddies and on water. Footnote: the Greek philosophers had no opportunity to study the phenomenon of the ebb and flow of the tide, and none of them wrote about it. The movement of the waters in the Euripus, however, was to a few of them a puzzling problem. Ash Roman II, Ib. 1500. Tryphon of Alexandria, who spent his life at Apollonia, a city of Albania, 163. Footnote: Tryphon of Alexandria, a Greek grammarian of the time of Augustus. His treatise Titaui Iejku appeared first at Milan in 1476, in Constantin Lascaris's Greek grammar. K. 329b. 1501. Messer Vincenzio Aliprando, who lives near the Inn of the Bear, has Giacomo Andrea's Vitruvius. L. 53b. 1502. Vitruvius says that small models are of no avail for ascertaining the effects of large ones, and I here propose to prove that this conclusion is a false one, and chiefly by bringing forward the very same argument which led him to this conclusion, that is, by an experiment with an auger. For he proves that if a man, by a certain exertion of strength, makes a hole of a given diameter, and afterwards another hole of double the diameter, This cannot be made with only double the exertion of the man's strength, but needs much more. To this, it may very well be answered that an auger. L53A. 1503. Of double the diameter cannot be moved by double the exertion, because the superficies of a body of the same form, but twice as large, has 4 times the extent of the superficies of the smaller, as is shown in the 2 figures A and N. Section title: Notes on books and authors. There are characters present in the original footnotes that have accents. I have placed an asterisk next to them. 1504. Of squaring the circle, and who it was that first discovered it by accident. Vitruvius, measuring miles by means of the repeated revolutions of the wheels which move vehicles, extended over many stadia the lines of the circumferences of the circles of these wheels. He became aware of them by the animals that moved the vehicles, but he did not discern that this was a means of finding a square equal to a circle. This was first done by Archimedes of Syracuse, who by multiplying the second diameter of a circle by half its circumference produced a rectangular quadrilateral equal figure to the circle. Footnote: Vitruvius, see also knows. 1113 and 343, 10. Compare number 1475. 1505. Virgil says that a blank shield is devoid of merit, because among the people of Athens, the true recognition confirmed by testimonies. 1506. In Vit alone there are 805 conclusions in perspective. Footnote: Whitelow, Vitalian, Vitalin, Vitaliani. Ida vetersi su questo Attico prospettico del secolo Roman 13 Luca Pacioli, Paolo Lamazzo, Leonardo da Vinci, ec. I fra I moderni il Greece, il libri, il brunet, I la memory publicate dal principe boncompagni, I sur l orthographe du nom et sur la patrie de Whitelow, Vitalian note de Maximilian Curzi, Professor Thorne, ov sono descritti I molti codici assistenti nel biblioteca di Europa. Bernardino Baldi nel su vite demate matisci, manuscritto presso il principe boncompagni, ha una biografia del Vitaliani. Questo scritto del Baldi ricala data, 25 agosto 1588. Discorsero poi di lui Federigo Risnerio e Giovanni di Montereggio nella prefazione dell'Alfagrano. Giovanni Bottione Girolamo Cardano, de subtilitate, ci nota gli errori di Vitaliani. Vis, secondo il Baldi, intorno all'anno 1269, ma secondo il Rinaldo Fiorava nel 1299, avendo dedicata la sua opera ad un frate Guglielmo di Monteca, ci vis di que tempi. Intorno ad un manoscritto dell'Attica di Vitaliani, citato da Luca Pacioli v. ha un secondo exemplar del Curls, con agent del principe boncompagni, e la illustrazioni del cav. Enrico Narducci. Nel catalogo di manoscritti passaggi di Baldassare de Principi boncompagni, compilato da Esso Narducci Roma, 1862, Sotto Allen 358 troviamo citato. Vitalio, Perspectiva, manoscritto del secolo Roman 14. La prospettiva di Vitalione, sic Thuringopoloni asterisk e citata du vault de Paolo Lamazzo nel Trattato dell'Arte della Pittura. Vitalio o Vitalo a Whitelow. Il suo libro fu impresso in Foglio a Norimberga nel 1535. La secondo edizione e del 1551, sempre di Norimberga, ed una terza di Basilia, 1572. See Indagini Storage. Sulla Libreria Visconteo Sforzesca del Castello di Pavia. Procura di Gide, Milano 1879. P. I. Appendix P. 113, 114. 1507. Vitalone at St. Mark's. Footnote: Altro codis di cotesta, prospettiva del Vitalone troviamo notato nel canon bibliografico di Nicol asterisk ov, conservato alla Magliebchiana, in copia del originale versimilmente, invito dal Parentucelli a Casimo de Medici Magliab. Cod. Sen. 1 Roman 7, 30 cart de 193 a 198. Provian dal Convento di San Marco e lo aveva trascritto frate Leonardo Scruberti Fiorentino, del Ordine dei Predicatori ci fu anche bibliotecario della Medicea Pubblica in San Marco, see Indagini Storage, Procura di Gide. Part I, p. 97. K. 212b. 1508. How this proposition of Xenophon is false, if you take away unequal quantities from unequal quantities, but in the same proportion, and see. Footnote: Xenophon's works were published several times during Leonardo's lifetime. B4a. Inventories and Accounts, 1509–1545. 1509. On the 28th day of April I received from the Marchesino 103 lire and 12 denarii. Footnote. Instead of the indication of the year, there is a blank space after d'April. Marchesino Stange was one of Lodovico il Moro's officials. Camperno. 1388. Ash, Iaya. 1510. On the 8th day of July 1492 in 135 Rhenish florins, 445 in denarii of 6 soldi, 112 s16 in denarii of 512 soldi 1, 29 s13 in gold and 3 scudi L. 8 I in all. SKM Roman 3, 47a. 1511. On the 1st day of February, lire 1200. SKM Roman 3, 47a. 1512. The hall towards the court is 126 paces long and 27 braccia wide. 1513. The narrow cornice above the hall lire 30. The cornice beneath that, being one for each picture, lire 7, and for the cost of blue, gold, white, plaster, indigo and glue 3 lire time 3 days. The pictures below these moldings with their pilasters, 12 lire each. I calculate the cost for smalt, blue and gold, and other colors at 112 lire. The days I calculate at 3, for the invention of the composition, pilasters, and other things. 1514. Item for each vault 7 lire. Outlay for blue and gold 3 1/2 time, 4 days. For the windows 112. The cornice below the windows, 16 soldi per braccio. Item for 24 pictures of Roman history, 14 lire each. The philosophers 10 lire. The pilasters, 1 ounce of blue 10 soldi. For gold 15 soldi total 2, and 1 2 lire. 1515. The cornice above lire 30, the cornice below lire 7 the compositions, 1 with another lire 13. 1516. Salai 6 lire, 4 soldi, 10 soldi for a chain. On the L4th of March I had 13 lire S4, 16 lire remain. 1517. How many braccia high is the level of the walls? 123 braccia. How large is the hall? How large is the garland? 30 ducats. On the 29th day of January, 1,494 cloth, for hose lire 4 S3 lining, S16 making S8 to salai, S3A jasper ring S13 A sparkling stone, S11 to Caterina S10 to Caterina S10H, 233A. 1518. The wheel lyre 7 the tire lyre 10, the shield lyre 4 the cushion lyre 8 the ends of the axletree lyre, 2 bed and frame lyre 30 conduit lyre 10. SKMII 24A. 1519. Parsley 10 parts mint part thyme part vinegar, and a little salt 2 pieces of canvas for salai. Footnote. This note, of about the year 1494, is the earliest mention of salai, and the last is of the year 1513, see number 1465, 3. From the various notes in the MSS. He seems to have been Leonardo's assistant and keeper only, and scarcely himself a painter. At any rate, no signed, or otherwise authenticated picture by him is known to exist. Vasari speaks somewhat doubtfully on this point. SKM, IIIO. 1520. On Tuesday I bought wine for morning, on Friday the 4th day of September the same. Footnote. This note enables us to fix the date of the manuscript in which it is to be found. In 1495, the 4th of September fell on a Friday. The contents of the manuscript do not permit us to assign it to a much earlier or later date. Compare number 1522 and note. SKM, III 94b. 1521. The cistern, at the hospital 2 ducats, beans, white maize, red maize millet buckwheat, kidney beans, beans peas. SKM, III 95a. 1522. Expenses of the interment of Caterina. For the 3 ibs of tapers S, for the bier S, a pall over the bier S, for bearing and placing the cross S, for bearing the body S, for 4 priests, and 4 clerks S bell. Book and sponge S, for the gravediggers S, to the senior S, for a license from the authorities 1 SS, the doctor S sugar, and candles 12 SS. Salai's cloak, The 4th of April 1497, 4 braxia of silver cloth L15, S4 green velvet to trim it L9 S binding L, S9 loops L, S12, the making L1 S5 binding for the front L. S5 stitching here are 13 grossoni of his L26 S5, Sally stole the soldi. 1524. On Monday I bought 4 braxia of cloth lyre 13, S14, 1-2, on the 17th of October 1497. 1525. Memorandum. That on the 8th day of April 1503, I, Leonardo da Vinci, lent to Vant, miniature painter 4 gold ducats in gold. Sally carried them to him and gave them into his own hand, and he said he would repay within the space of 40 days. Memorandum. That on the same day I paid to Sally 3 gold ducats, which he said he wanted for a pair of rose-colored hose with their trimming, and there remain 9 ducats due to him accepting that he owes me 20 ducats, that is 17 I lent him at Milan, and 3 at Venice. Memorandum. That I gave Sally 21 braxia of cloth to make a shirt, at Io soldi the braxio, which I gave him on the 20th day of April 1503. Footnote, with regard to Vant or Attavante, the miniature painter, not Nanny as I formerly deciphered this name, which is difficult to read. See Zeitschrift für Bild. Kunst, 1879, p. 155, and Vasari, Lives of Frate Giovanni de Fiesole, of Bartolomeo della Gatta, and of Gherardo Miniater. He, like Leonardo, was one of the committee of artists who, in 1503, considered the erection and placing of Michelangelo's David. The date of his death is not known. He was of the same age as Leonardo. Further details will be found in Notizie di Attavante Miniater, e di alcuni suoi lavori, Milanese's ed. Of Vasari, Roman 3, 230-1-35. 1526. On the morning of San Peter's Day, June 29, 1504, I took Io ducats, of which I gave 1 to Tommaso my servant to spend. On Monday morning 1 florin to Sally to spend on the house. On Thursday I took 1 florin for my own spending. Wednesday evening 1 florin to Tommaso, before supper. Saturday morning 1 florin to Tommaso. Monday morning, 1 florin less 10 soldi. Thursday to Sally, I florin less 10 soldi. For a jerkin, 1 florin. For a jerkin and a cap 2 florins. To the hosier, 1 florin. To Sally, 1 florin. Friday morning, the 19th of July, 1 florin less 6 soldi. I have 7 FL left and 22 in the box. Tuesday, the 23rd day of July, 1 florin to Tommaso. Monday morning, to Tommaso 1 florin. Thursday morning, the 1st day of August, 1 FL, to Tommaso. Sunday, the 4th of August, 1 florin. Friday, the PTH day of August 1504, I took 10 ducats out of the box. 1527. 1504. On the 9th day of August 1504, I took 10 florins in gold. On Friday, the 9th day of August, 15 grossoni, that is FL. 5s5, given to me 1 florin in gold on the LTTH day of August. On the 14th of August, 32 grossoni to Tommaso. On the L8th of the same 5 grossoni to Sally. On the 8th of September, 6 grossoni to the workmen to spend. That is on the day of Our Lady's birth. On the 16th day of September, I gave 4 grossoni to Tommaso. On a Sunday. Footnote, in the original, the passage given as number 1463 is written between lines 2 and 3 of this text, and it is possible that the entries in lines 3 and 4 refer to the payments of Jacopo Tedesco, who is there mentioned. The first words of these lines are very illegible. Asterisk 7. Alfater. Il-Fater was, as is well known, the nickname of Giovanni Franciso Penny, born in Florence in 1486 and subsequently a pupil of Raphael's. According to Vasari, he was known by it even as a boy. Whether he is spoken of in this passage, or whether the word fatter should be translated literally, I will not undertake to decide. The latter seems to me more probably right. Section title, Inventories and Accounts. 1528. On the day of October, 1508, I had 30 scudi. 13 I lent to Sally to make up his sister's dowry, and 17 I have left. 1529. Memorandum of the money I have had from the king as my salary from July 1508 till April next 1509. First 100 scudi, then 70, then 50, then 20 and then 200 florins at 48 soldi the florin. 1530. Saturday the 2nd day of March I had from Santa Maria Novella 5 gold ducats, leaving 450. Of these I gave 2 the same day to Sally, who had lent them to me. Footnote. See Canto Corrente di Leonardo da Vinci, con lo spedal di Maria Nuova published by G. Uzielli, Research intorno a Leonardo da Vinci, Firenze, 1872, pp. 164, 165, 218, and 219. The date here given by Leonardo does not occur in either of the accounts. 1531. Thursday, the 8th day of June, I took 17 grossoni, 18 soldi. On the same Thursday in the morning I gave to Sally 22 soldi for the expenses. 1532. To Sally 4 grossoni, and for 1 braccio of velvet, 5 lyre and 1 2, viz. 10 soldi for loops of silver. Sally 14 soldi for binding, the making of the cloak 25 soldi. 1533. I gave to Sally 93 lyre 6 soldi, of which I have had 67 lyre, and there remain 26 lyre 6 soldi, 1,534. To Sally S42. 2 dozen of laces S8. For papers S3D8. A pair of shoes S14. For velvet S14. A sword and knife S21. To the barber S11. To Paolo for a S20 for having his fortune told S6. 1535. On Friday morning, 1 florin to Sally to spend, 3 soldi received. Bread S, D. Wine S, D. Grapes S, D. Mushrooms S, D. Fruit S, D. Footnote 6. Compare nose. 1545 L4 and 5 with similar entries for horses' fodder. Bran S, D. At the barber's S, D. For shoes S, D. 1536. On Thursday morning 1 florin. 1537. On St. Ambrose's day from the morning to Thursday 36 soldi. 1538. The moneys I have had from Sir Matteo, first 20 grassoni, then on 13 occasions 3f, and then 61 grassoni, then 3, and then 3 asterisk 3, 46 soldi 12 grossoni. 1539. For paper S18. For canvas S30. For paper S10 D19. Total S73, 1,540. 20 pounds of German blue, at 1 ducat the pound lyre 80 SD. 60 pounds of white S, the pound lyre 15 SD. 112 pound at 48, the pound lyre 6 SD. 2 pounds of cinnabar at S18, the pound lyre 1 S16D. 6 pounds of green at S12, the pound lyre 3 S12D. 4 pounds of yellow at S12, the pound lyre 2 S8D. 1 pound of minium at S8, the pound lyre 0 S8D. 4 pounds of, at S2 the pound lyre 0 S8D. 6 pounds of ochre at S1, the pound lyre 0 S6D. Black, at S2 the pound for 20 lyre 2 S0D. Wax to make the stars, 29 pounds at S the pound lyre 0 S0D. 40 pounds of oil for painting at 5 soldi, the pound lyre 10 S0D. Altogether lyre 120 D18 without the gold, 18. Tin for putting on the gold, 120 1858. 1541. 2 large hatchets and 1 very small one, 8 brass spoons, 4 tablecloths, 2 towels, 15 small napkins, 2 coarse napkins, 2 coarse cloths, 2 wrappers, 3 pairs of sheets, 2 pairs new and 1 old. 1542. Bed 70s. Ring 70. Crockery 25. Gardener 12. 28. Porters 21. Glasses 1. Fuel 36. A lock 1 section title, miscellaneous notes. 1543. New tinware pairs of sheets 6 small bowls, each of 4 breadths, 6 bowls, small sheets, 2 large dishes, tablecloths and J2 2 dishes medium size, 16 coarse cloths. 2 small ones shirts, old tinware napkins, 3 small bowls, hand towels. 4 bowls, 3 square stones, 2 small bowls, 1 large bowl, 1 platter, 4 candlesticks, 1 small candlestick. 1544. Hose S40 straw S60 wheat S42 wine S54 bread S18 meat S54 eggs S5 salad S3 the barber S2D6 horses S1. 1545. Sunday. Meat S10D wine S12D bran S5D4 herbs S10D buttermilk S4D4 melon S3D bread S3D1 Monday S98. S6D wine S12D bran S9D4 buttermilk S4D4 herbs S8D Tuesday SD meat S0D8 wine S12D bread S3D meal S5D4 herbs S8D Wednesday wine S5D melon S2D meal S5D4 vegetables S8. Ashai 18b. Notes by unknown persons among the MSS 1546 1565. 1546. Miseration Divina Sacro, Sanct Roman Ecclesi Tituli and Cardinalis, tu vulgariter nuncupatus venerabili religios, Fratri Johanni, Mayor de Nussdorf, 3 Ordinis Predicatorum Provinti Teutoni. Conventus Vianensis Capellano, 4 Nostro Commensali Salutum, Indiano Sempiternum, Religioni Zealous Rite AC, in 5 Honestas Aliorumque Laudabilium Probitatis, et Virtutum Merita Quibus apud nos fide 6, Digno Commendationis Testimonio Magistri Videlicet, Ordinis Felicis Recordationis, Leonardi de 7 Mansudis de Perusio Sigillo Suo. Us dans tibi ad. Opera Virtutum commend Salem. 8 Locum et tempus success. Ors, Cujissimi liter officium, ministratus qui predecessoris sui donum. 9 Confirmavit et de novo dedit alirumque plurima, qui opera tua laudant 10 nos inducant ut tibi. Redimus ad gratiam liberalem hinc est quod nos cupiens. Footnote: the meaning of this document, which is very difficult to decipher, and is written in unintelligible Latin, is that Leonardo di Mansudis recommends the Reverend Mayor of Nussdorf, chaplain at Vienna, to some third person, and says also that something, which had to be proved, has been proved. The rest of the passages on the same leaf are undoubtedly in Leonardo's hand. Nos. 483, 661, 519, 578, 392, 582, 887, and 894. W. Zib. 1547. Johannes Antonius de Johannes Ambrosius de Bolate. He who lets time pass and does not grow in virtue, the more I think of it, the more I grieve. No man has it in him to be virtuous who will give up honor for gain. Good fortune is valueless to him who knows not toil. The man becomes happy who follows Christ. There is no perfect gift without great suffering. Our glories and our triumphs pass away. Foul lust and dreams and luxury and sloth have banished every virtue from the world, so that our nature, wandering and perplexed, has almost lost the old and better track. Henceforth it were well to rouse thyself from sleep. The master said that lying in down will not bring thee to fame, nor staying beneath the quilts. He who, without fame, burns his life to waste, leaves no more vestige of himself on earth than wind-blown smoke or the foam upon the sea. Footnote: from the last sentence we may infer that this text is by the hand of a pupil of Leonardo's. On the same sheet are the notes Nos 1175 and 715 in Leonardo's own handwriting. Section title: Miscellaneous Notes. 1548. On the morning of Santo Zenobio, the 29th of May, 1504, I had from Leonardo Vinci 15 gold ducats, and began to spend them. To Mona Margarita S62D4, to remake the ring S19D8 clothes, S13 good beef, S4 eggs, S6 debt, at the bank S7 velvet, S12 wine, S6D4 meat, S4 mulberries, S2D4 mushrooms, S3D4 salad, S1 fruit, S1D4 candles, S3. S1 flour, S2 Sunday 8 bread, S6 wine, S9D4 meat, S7 soup, S2 fruit, S3D4 candles, S3D Monday bread, S6D4 meat, S10D8 wine, S9D4 fruit, S4 soup, S1D8. 1549. Tuesday bread, S6 meat, S11 wine, S7 fruit, S9 soup, S2 salad, S1. Section title: Notes by unknown hands. 1550. To Mona Margarita S5 to Tommaso S14, to Mona Margarita D5 S2 on the day of San Zeno by left. After payment, D13 S2 D4 of Mona Margarita altogether D14 S5 D4. 1551. On Monday, the L3rd of February, I lent lyre S7 to Leonardo to spend, Friday D7. 1552. Stefano Chigi, canonico, servant of the Honorable Count Grimani at S. Apostoli. 1553. Having become anxious, Bernardo di Simone, Silvestro di Stefano, Bernardo di Jacopo, Francesco di Matteo Bonciani, Antonio di Giovanni Ruberti, Antonio da Pistia. Antonio, he who has time and waits for time, will lose his friends and his money. 1554. Reverend Maestro, Domino Giovanni, I spoke to Maestro Zaccaria as a brother about this business, and I made him satisfied with the arrangement that I had wished. That is, as regards the commission that I had from the parties, and I say that between us there is no need to pay money down, as regard the pictures of the C.A. 75A, 220A. 1555. Of things seen through a mist, that which is nearest its farthest limit will be least visible, and all the more so as they are more remote. Cade, 77, B 225b. 1556. Theodoricus Rex Semper Augustus. CA 94b, 271b. 1557. Either you say Hesperia alone, and it will mean Italy, or you add Ultima, and it will mean Spain. Umbria, part of Tuscany. Footnote, Amoretti, Mem. Store. Roman 24 quotes the first 3 lines of this letter as by Leonardo. The character of the writing, however, does not favor this hypothesis, and still less the contents. I should regard it rather a rough draft of a letter by young Melzi. I have not succeeded in deciphering completely the 13 lines of this text. Amoretti reads at the beginning Canonica di Vaprio, but Vaprio seems to me a very doubtful reading. Footnote, the notes in Greek knows. 1557, 1558, and 1562 stand in close connection with each other, but the meaning of some words is very doubtful, and a translation is thus rendered impossible. CA 121b, 376b. 1558. Ilivkov Avtxfaktot QS. Oi 8 SJ OJAI. Footnote, the notes in Greek knows. 1557, 1558, and 1562 stand in close connection with each other, but the meaning of some words is very doubtful, and a translation is thus rendered impossible. CA 130A, 397A. 1559. Canonica of, on the 5th of July 1507, my dearly beloved mother, sisters, and cousin, I herewith inform you that thanks to God I am, about the sword which I, bring it to Maso at the piazza, and I will settle the business of Piro so that. CA 164b, 490b. 1560. Ut bene respondit naturi ars docta, dedicet Vincius, ut tribu etc. sic animam noluit ut similes magis hic fort, altera sic est, possidit Elias Morris Ammons animam. Footnote 1560. These 3 epigrams on the portrait of Lucrezia Crivelli, a picture by Leonardo which must have been lost at a very early date, seem to have been dedicated to Leonardo by the poet. Leonardo used the reverse of the sheet for notes on geometry. Footnote, the notes in Greek knows. 1557, 1558, and 1562 stand in close connection with each other, but the meaning of some words is very doubtful, and a translation is thus rendered impossible. Hugis quam cernis nomen Lucretia, divi omnia cui larga contribura manu, rara huic forma data est, pinxit Leonardo's, amavit Morris, pictorum primus hic, illeducum. Naturam, ac superes hac licet, imagine divas pictor. Tantum homines posse manum hic doluit, illi longa duri tam magni tempora formi, qui spatio furet deperitura brevi. 1561. Aegidius Romanus on the formation of the human body in the mother's womb. Footnote 1. Liber Magistri Aegidae de Pulsibus Matris Canipositis, cum commentario gentilis de Fulgeneo, published in 1484 at Padova, in 1494, and in 1514 at Venice, and in 1505 at Lyon. Footnote 2.2. This text appears to be in a handwriting different from that in the note, L1. Here the reading is not so simple as Amoretti gave it, Mem star. Roman 25, A Monsieur Leonard Painter du Roy pour ambis. He says, too, that this address is of the year 1509, and Mr. Ravaisin remarks, De cette suscription, il semble qu'on put inferer que Leonard était alors en France, à la cour de Louis Roman XII. Pour conclure j'y crois qu'il en est, pas prouve que Leonard da Vinci en est, pas fait un voyage de quelques mois, en France sous Louis Roman XII, entre le printemps de 1509 et l'automne de 1510. I must confess that I myself have not succeeded in deciphering completely this French writing, of which 2 words remain to me doubtful. But so much seems to be quite evident that this is not an address of a letter at all, but a certificate or note. Amboise I believe to be the signature of Charles d'Amboise, the governor of Milan. If this explanation is the right one, it can be easily explained by the contents of Nos. 1350 and 1529. The note, line 1, was perhaps added later by another hand, and Leonardo himself wrote afterwards on the same sheet some geometrical explanations. I must also point out that the statement that this sheet belongs to the year 1509 has absolutely no foundation in fact. There is no clue whatever for giving a precise date to this note. To Monsieur Le Vinci the horses of the king's equerry. Continue the payment to Ms. Leonard, painter to the king. Amboise, 1562. 1563. Memorandum to Maestro Leonardo to have, the State of Florence. 1564. To remind your Excellency that Ridolfo Manini brought to Florence a quantity of crystal besides other stones, such as are 1565. Ex via asterisk C6 de ciutate day, 2 asterisk C antipodes. Footnote, a facsimile of this note, which refers to a well-known book by St. Augustine, is given on page 254. 1566. Leonardo's will. Be it known to all persons, present and to come, that at the court of our Lord the King at Amboise before ourselves in person, Messer Leonardo da Vinci, painter to the King, at present staying at the place known as Clew near Amboise, duly considering the certainty of death and the uncertainty of its time, has acknowledged and declared in the said court, and before us that he has made, according to the tenor of these presents, his testament and the declaration of his last will as follows. And first he commends his soul to our Lord, Almighty God, and to the glorious Virgin Mary, and to our Lord Saint Michael, to all the blessed angels and saints male and female in paradise. Item, the said testator desires to be buried within the church of Saint Florentin at Amboise, and that his body shall be borne thither by the chaplains of the church. Item, that his body may be followed from the said place to the said church of Saint Florentin by the collegium of the said church, that is to say, by the rector and the prior, or by their vicars and chaplains of the church of Saint Denis of Amboise, also the lesser friars of the place, and before his body shall be carried to the said church this testator desires. That in the said church of Saint Florentin 3 grand masses shall be celebrated by the deacon and subdeacon, and that on the day when these 3 high masses are celebrated, 30 low masses shall also be performed at Saint Gregoire. Item, that in the said church of Saint Denis similar services shall be performed as above. Item, that the same shall be done in the church of the said friars and lesser brethren. Item, the aforesaid testator gives and bequeaths to Messer Francesco de Melzo, nobleman of Milan, in remuneration for services and favors done to him in the past, each, and all of the books the testator is at present possessed of, and the instruments and portraits appertaining to his art and calling as a painter. Item, the same testator gives and bequeaths henceforth for ever to Battista de Villanis his servant 1/2, that is the moiety, of his garden which is outside the walls of Milan, and the other half of the same garden to Salai his servant, in which garden aforesaid Salai has built and constructed a house, which shall be and remain henceforth in all perpetuity the property of the said Salai, his heirs and successors. And this is in remuneration for the good and kind services which the said de Villanis and Salai, his servants, have done him in past times until now. Item, the said testator gives to Maturina his waiting woman a cloak of good black cloth lined with fur, of cloth, and 2 ducats paid once only, and this likewise is in remuneration for good service rendered to him in past times by the said Maturina. Item, He desires that at his funeral 60 tapers shall be carried which shall be borne by 60 poor men, to whom shall be given money for carrying them, at the discretion of the said Melzo, and these tapers shall be distributed among the 4 above-mentioned churches. Item, the said testator gives to each of the said churches 10 pounds of wax in thick tapers, which shall be placed in the said churches to be used on the day when those said services are celebrated. Item, that alms shall be given to the poor of the Hoteldia, to the poor of Saint Lazare d'Amboise, and to that end there shall be given and paid to the treasurers of that same fraternity the sum and amount of 70 soldi of Tours. Item, the said testator gives and bequeaths to the said Messer Francesco Melzo, being present and agreeing, the remainder of his pension and the sums of money which are owing to him from the past time till the day of his death by the receiver or treasurer general M. Johann Sapin, and each and every sum of money that he has already received from the aforesaid Sapin of his said pension, and in case he should die before the said Melzo, and not otherwise. Which monies are at present in the possession of the said testator, in the said place called Clou, as he says. And he likewise gives and bequeaths to the said Melz all in each of his clothes which he at present possesses at the said place of Clou, and all in remuneration for the good and kind services done by him in past times till now, as well as in payment for the trouble and annoyance he may incur with regard to the execution of this present testament, which, however, shall all be at the expense of the said testator. And he orders and desires that the sum of 400 scudi del Sol, which he has deposited in the hands of the treasurer of Santa Maria Nuova in the city of Florence, may be given to his brothers now living in Florence with all the interest and usufruct that may have accrued up to the present time, and be due from the aforesaid treasurer to the aforesaid testator on account of the said 400 crowns, since they were given and consigned by the testator to the said treasurers. Item, he desires and orders that the said Messer Francesco de Melzo shall be and remain the sole and only executor of the said will of the said testator, and that the said testament shall be executed in its full and complete meaning, and according to that which is here narrated and said, to have, hold, keep, and observe, the said Messer Leonardo da Vinci, constituted testator, has obliged and obliges by these presents the said his heirs and successors with all his goods movable and immovable present and to come, and has renounced and expressly renounces by these presents all and each of the things which to that are contrary. Given at the said place of Clou in the presence of Magister Spirito Firi Vicar, of the Church of Saint Denis at Amboise, of M. Guglielmo Croissant priest and chaplain, of Magister Cyprian Fulcin, brother Francesco de Corian, and of Francesco de Milano, a brother of the convent of the Minorites at Amboise. Witnesses summoned and required to that end by the indictment of the said court in the presence of the aforesaid M. Francesco de Melz, who accepting and agreeing to the same, has promised by his faith and his oath, which he has administered to us personally, and has sworn to us never to do nor say nor act in any way to the contrary. And it is sealed by his request with the royal seal opposed to legal contracts at Amboise, and in token of good faith. Given on the XZ day of April MDXVI, before Easter. And on the XZ day of this month of April MDXVI, in the presence of M. Guglielmo Borian, royal notary in the court of the bailiwick of Amboise, the aforesaid M. Leonardo da Vinci gave and bequeathed, by his last will and testament as aforesaid, to the said M. Baptista de Villanis, being present and agreeing, the right of water which the King Louis Roman XII, of pious memory lately deceased, gave to this same da Vinci, the stream of the canal of Santo Cristoforo in the Duchy of Milan, to belong to the said Villanis for ever in such wise and manner that the said gentleman made him this gift in the presence of M. Francesco de Melzo, gentleman, of Milan and in mine. And on the aforesaid day in the said month of April in the said year, MDXVI, the same M. Leonardo da Vinci, by his last will and testament gave to the aforesaid M. Baptista de Villanis, being present and agreeing, each and all of the articles of furniture and utensils of his house at present at the said place of Clou, in the event of the said de Villanis surviving the aforesaid M. Leonardo da Vinci, in the presence of the said M. Francesco Melzo, and of me notary and C. Borian.